Hey guys, Jaybird here. Today I'd like to go over some consumables that you're going to need if you plan on doing any form of raiding in Classic WoW. The first raid I want to cover is Molten Core. So with every raid, you're going to have all your standard DPS consumables. In the case of an enhancement shaman, which is what I plan to play, this pretty much means all of them. But for melee DPS, you'll have your mongoose, different Juju Might, Juju Power, Flurry, Mighty Rage potions if you're a warrior, Thistle Tea if you're a rogue, and casters will have Greater Arcane Elixirs, Elixirs of Shadow and Firepower, Mana Potions, Dark Demonic Runes. This video is going to assume you know all the DPS consumables you need for every raid, and it's going to focus instead on raid-specific consumables that you'll be using for each boss in the Molten Core. First off, there are some consumables you'll still want that are useful in any situation and in any raid, really. Things like Whipperroot Tubers and Health Potions, Bandages, for oh crap moments where you need to heal yourself and want to take some of the strain off your healers, or Juju Embers and Greater Fire Protection Potions in the case of Molten Core, which can reduce raid damage taken by a large margin if everyone's using them. So now that we have some of the general ones out of the way, let's look at what consumes you should bring for each boss. The first boss on our list is Lucifron. For this fight you will primarily only need one consumable, and that's the Restorative Potion. What this potion does is remove one magic, curse, poison, or disease effect on you every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. Why this is important is because Lucifron uses 3 spells that can all hurt the raid if they are not removed from you ASAP. The first one is Impending Doom. This is an AoE magic debuff that causes 200 damage to the target if it is not dispelled in 10 seconds. A plebeian might say to just have the mage's decurse, which is true, they can do that, but we want mages doing as much DPS as possible, so the boss goes down a lot faster. This is where restorative potions come into play, allowing the mages to not have to worry about decursing, and also lets the person using the potion to not worry about someone's forgetting to decurse you. The second ability is called Lucifron's Curse, which causes all mana, rage, or energy using abilities to cost 100% more of their needed resource. So with restorative potions, here again we can keep the debuff off of ourselves and save the casters some mana so they can keep spamming Frostbolt or healing or whatever. The last spell isn't used by Lucifron, but by his ads. This is Dominate Mind, and works like Priest Mind Control. Obviously this one is bad to have on you, and requires either a Priest Dispel, or a Shaman's Purge if you are Horde. Paladins unfortunately can't cleanse this debuff since cleanse can only be used on friendly targets. Now that Lucifron's down and the dogs along the way are dead, we can move on to the next boss, Magmadar. For this fight we're mainly going to need Greater Fire Protection Potions, and what we want to do with these is what we'll call pre-potting. Since these potions have a 2-minute cooldown, we want to use one Greater Fire Protection Potion 2 minutes before the pull, and this will allow you to either A, use a mana or a health pot if needed, or B, use a second Greater Fire Protection Potion. The Protection Potion is necessary for 2 spells that Magmadar can cast, Lava Bomb and Lava Breath, although for most people aside from the tank, nobody should get hit with Lava Breath, unless you're being a potato. You can further mitigate the amount of damage you take by using a Juju Ember, which increases your fire resistance by 15 for 10 minutes. Magmadar also has a spell called Frenzy, but this is just up to the hunters to take care of with Trank Shot. He also does an occasional Fear, but there's nothing really you can do about it other than if you're a Dwarf Priest you can put a Fear Ward up, Tremor Totems if you're a Shaman, or Stancing as a Warrior. Next on the list of bosses to kill we have Gehennas. The main points here to not get cleaved and don't stand in the fire. He'll also shoot random Shadow Bolts at the raid, which could technically be absorbed by a Greater Shadow Protection Potion, but if you plan on pre-potting, I suggest using a Greater Fire Protection Potion, as the fire hurts a lot more. Again, Juju Ember is really nice here. So the reason we don't want to use a Protection Potion off the pole is because we want to use a free action potion. This is because the ads can cast Fist of Ragnaros, which is an AoE stun that lasts for 4 seconds. Gehennas will also put a curse that reduces healing by 75% for 5 minutes. This simply needs to be dispelled off of the tank. Boss number 4 on our list is Garr, and while he doesn't have anything as far as curses that need to be removed or any spells that can harm you directly, this is where seemingly useless buffs and consumables can help you. He will randomly dispel buffs on you. Yes, that means world buffs, consumables, paladin blessings, you name it. So the trick here is to take advantage of things like Savory Deviant Delight, Blessing of Sacrifice, Water Walking, Water Breathing, you get the idea. Stack buffs you don't care about losing over top the ones you want to keep. 5th on the list is Baron Geddon. This boss has a couple things to watch out for, first being Living Bomb, which causes a large amount of fire damage to the target and nearby allies after 8 seconds, and will also knock you up. The other spell we want to look out for is Inferno. This applies really only to melee DPS, as he will let out a blast wave around himself that does fire damage over the course of 8 seconds. Here's where Juju Embers and pre-potting a greater fire protection potion comes in handy again. If you want the boss to die faster and have the extra gold to do this, you can pre-pot a fire potion and use a second one when the first runs out, which will allow you to stay in the Inferno for nearly its entire duration, which will increase your personal and the raid's overall DPS. The last ability he uses is Ignite Mana, although this is one instance where the ranged raid member should be decursing this off as soon as possible. Next up is Shazzrah. For this fight, you'll be wanting to be packing some greater arcane protection potions. This is more important as a melee DPS, but you can drastically shorten the fight by pre-potting and then using a second one after the first one has absorbed all the damage it can. The spell he uses is Arcane Explosion. It's just like a mage's Arcane Explosion, it just does more damage. Once he's eaten through both of those protection potions, you'll have to get out and let your healers top you off, which is why you want to pre-pot the greater arcane protection potion. He also teleports around and counterspells on a timer, but there's no consumables that will help you here. Just watch your spell casts and when he's about to counterspell, and keep moving with your assigned group. Sulfuron Harbinger has a few abilities of note, such as a Demo Shout, which reduces the attack power of people in a certain range, 2-second knockdown with a range of 10 yards, and a Dispellable buff that gives one of his allies 25% increased physical damage and 100% attack speed. The only consumable we are going to be using here, aside from the ones that I've been listing before, is Free Action Potion. This is because the boss can use an ability called Hand of Ragnaros. This is similar to Fist of Ragnaros on Gehennas, and again only really applies to the melee DPS. Before we go to Majordomo, we'll still need to take care of Golemagg. The only real thing of note is that this melee DPS will be getting a stacking debuff that can be dispelled, but there's a good chance that you're going to end up at 9 stacks or higher of the debuff and you're going to have to get out or suffer the loss of raid and world buffs, since you're most likely going to be taking a dirt nap shortly thereafter. The primary potion we'll be using here is Free Action Potion if you're a melee DPS. At around 10% HP, Golemagg will do a stomp that does a significant amount of damage and stun everyone in range. If you want to stay in the fight, I suggest using this right before a stomp, and on private servers this would also negate the damage caused by a stomp, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case in Classic. So before we can summon Ragnaros, we need to take care of Majordomo and his ads. He has 4 abilities. The main one to worry about is his Magic Reflection buff, which reflects 50% of all spell damage taken by his allies for 10 seconds, so it's key to move the ads away from him. There'll be a lot of fire damage going out as well, so I suggest using greater fire protection potions, of course pre-potting 2 minutes before the pull. Juju Embers, again, really good for this. After the boss is down, don't forget to ninja loot the chest and G-quit. Once all the bosses are down, and assuming you didn't just take the Ancient Petrified Leaf as a priest, we can finally take on Ragnaros. Nothing too crazy here mechanics-wise that can be cheesed by the use of consumables, other than the incoming fire damage from the 4 spells he uses. Now, since I play a meme spec, I figured I might as well show you why, among other reasons, most guilds will only want to bring 1, if any of us. This is Ret Paladin Enhancement Shaman specific, since we have mana bars, and he does a large AoE knockup to anyone near the player with the mana pool. As a melee DPS with a mana bar, you'll have to stand right underneath this ledge over here all by your lonesome to try and help avoid getting blasted into the air and dying. Thanks for watching, guys. Just thought I'd go over some of the consumes you need to attempt to smoothly get through MC. I hope you at least learned one thing from this, and if you did, I'd appreciate if you left a like or comment. That lets me know what I am doing and not doing right. Other than that, subscribe if you want to see stuff similar to this. I'm still learning the whole video editing process, and with a full-time job, making this content takes a bit longer than I'd like. If you want to talk, I'm usually always around in some forum, and you can hit me up on Discord or check out my streams from 9 p.m. to midnight Central Time just about every day, where I'm mostly just twiddling my thumbs, talking and watching other classic content until the 27th. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Azeroth soon.